Hello, I'm Rosie Hardy. This is Rosie Hardy Gardening, and welcome to the Q&A for mid-July. Right, I've got quite a few here, so let's get cracking. Hi Rosie, which is most compact, long flowering and floriferous hardy geranium out of Patricia and Folkard and Silestemon? Now these are all bright pink varieties, and of that I would say Patricia is your most compact and most floriferous. Could you recommend a compact repeat flowering blue geranium that likes partial shade, please? I have Roseanne, but it has too open a habit for the spot I have in mind. Okay, so that's cut out the one that I would normally go to. Roseanne, I think, is a really good one for shade and repeat flowering. You can keep it under control by keeping on cutting it back every month, and then it will come back up. But if that is too big for you, then some of the newer ones like Azure Blue, something like that, they will be quite good for you. My hiccups have grown to 130 centimetres out. I would like to move them to the back of the border. When can I safely do this? Well, this is something that is growing away midsummer, so therefore you don't really want to be moving it in the midsummer. So you can safely move it in the autumn or the spring. Now this is dependent upon one, your soil type, and two, whether or not your garden is a frost pocket. So if your soil type is light, then that is absolutely fine, do it in the autumn. If you have a heavy soil, a clay soil, then I would recommend the spring. Also, if you happen to have a frost pocket garden, then again do it in the spring. Someone here has got a 2-year-old honeysuckle, gold flame, and it's climbing up a pillar. The first 6 foot has got wonderful growth, looking really, really good, but the next lot is all twisted and crunched leaves, and they're starting to fall off and so the flowers. You can see a little bit of black aphid, or what they think that is there. And I want to know how to fix this. Well, this could either be aphid, but it's more likely to be mildew, and therefore what you need to do is actually remove the growth that is actually infected and just cut it back to healthy growth. It will soon re-go on, and then I would use something like a plant invigorator, something like SB Invigorator. Just give the plant a spray of that, and that will help it to fight off these sorts of diseases. Right, this one is about Hellebores. They never flower. They don't do well in the garden. They've got heavy soil. It's a south facing. They're in the shade. Bought 3 new ones last year, and again nothing. What are they doing wrong? Part of it is that they're heavy soils, but they like a lot of organic matter, so they need to have a lot of organic matter, so lots of garden compost. They really do like that and benefit from that a lot. Shade is quite good. The other thing to do is, if you're really struggling, grow them in containers. If you can grow them fine in containers, then start to move them into the garden, but make sure you give them a lot of organic matter. This one, Sedum in my garden has become very woody. How do I save it? And how far do I cut down? Now, Sedum, what they're talking about here is probably Hylotelephium, so it's the autumn flowering one. They can get quite leggy, and you'll start to see growth at the base of the plant. So what you can do is you can cut right the way back down to 1 inch to 2.5 centimetres from ground level. So you take the plant right the way back down to that. If you're doing that and it's a dry time, then give it a water, give it a little bit of high potash feed, something like tomato feed, and then it will come back up. But if you've got sedums that do get this woody and get leggy, they are something that really could do with having the Chelsea chop, and they will be a lot better for you. Somebody here said they love the questions in June, has got one here for me in July, and is wondering about salvias and whether they can all have the Chelsea chop. Well, if they are sub-shrubby ones, then no, you don't do the Chelsea chop. You give those a prune like you would do shrubs, and you deadhead in a normal way. But if they are the herbaceous types and they're growing from a rosette of growth at the base, and then the flowers are coming up above, then yes, you can do Chelsea chop on those if they're getting too tall for you. Let's carry on. We've got a lot of questions this time. This one is about a lull in the garden. They say, every June I struggle to have a lot of plant material in flower. Late summer, it's full of colour, purples, blues, oranges and yellow. They don't like white. What can I plant during this time that will be in flower during the month of June? Well, the month of June is the natural transition period for a lot of plant material. The shrubs have finished flowering, they're putting on their leaf. The later shrubs won't be out in flower yet. The one thing that will be in height of its flowering will be roses, because they love June, so you could do that. Salvias and nepetas will keep on going through June as well. But why not enjoy the lull? Because then you're going to have the exuberance of the other plants, which you can then enjoy. So somebody here has a deadheading question regarding Euphorbia ceratocarpa and Euphorbia schillingleyi. I'm wondering if deadhead them, will they repeat flower? And the answer to that is no. Euphorbias tend not to repeat flower. They have one quite long flowering season, then you deadhead them, then they grow again, and then they flower the following year. So that won't help. You're also asking about Verbena bonariensis, whether deadheading that will get it to reflower. And yes, that can happen. If they're coming up and they're looking a bit straggly, you can cut dead flower stems back down quite a long way, and then they will send up new shoots, and then they will rebloom for you. Hopefully that helps. Now then, I've just done a video on fasciation and mutations in plants, and I'm getting a couple of questions on this. So one of them is, when does fasciation and mutation in a plant spill over or go into producing new varieties? And the answer to that is quite often. People like the fasciation and the flat way that plants grow, and a lot of aeoniums and even veronicastrums and those sort of things have been bred, or they've kept that bit of the genetics to be able to produce these plants. The subject that you say about a curly leaf in a hosta, however, that is a mutation and it's slightly different, and that is a plant is then picked and utilized. The fasciation tends to always affect stems and buds. It doesn't affect the leaves. Somebody else here, again following on from that, has got some Echinacea Purpurea, which has got misshapen flower buds. I'm wondering if this is fasciation, or is it something more like Aster's yellow? And when should they be worried about it? Well, usually if it's fasciation, there's nothing to be worried about. Just cut off the fasciated bit, and if they regrow back up and they're all perfectly fine, then there is no problem whatsoever. If, however, when you cut them back and they all come back distorted again, then there could be another problem. Right. Someone here saying, I love alstroemerias and I use them as a cut flower. Planted a few a month ago and they look as though they're ready to be harvested. Knowing that the method for doing alstroemeria flower is that you pull them, worried that if pulling them is going to pull the plants out of the ground. Now I'm a bit worried about the fact that you've only put them in a month ago. That means they haven't had time to root down, and therefore if you do try and pull, yes, you will probably bring the whole plant up. And really, if you're growing them for cut flower, you've got to allow the plants to establish and get going. And in the first season, you should really just let the flowers go over, or you can cut, but really you shouldn't be doing that pulling to start off with. So really that's what I would say. So I would say really be a little bit more patient with them, wait till next year, and then when they are really cropping well, you just pull flower off, new flower comes through. Thank you very much for watching, and please do subscribe to the channel.